Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are stripping away the myths of ancient curses and golden treasures to look at something far more human and arguably much more fascinating. We are talking about the history of pain and how humanity fought against it 4,000 years ago. We are heading to the desert sands of Saqqara in Egypt. When we think of Saqqara, we usually think of the Step Pyramid or the massive tombs of the pharaohs. But recently, a joint French and Swiss archaeological mission led by Professor Philippe Colombert from the University of Geneva made a discovery that has completely shifted our focus from the kings to the people who kept those kings alive. They were excavating in the southern sector of the necropolis, right in the shadow of the pyramid of Pepi I. At first glance, the site didn't look like much. The team was clearing away sand from what appeared to be modest mud brick structures. To an untrained eye, these looked like ancient ovens or simple storage pits, the kind of debris archaeologists usually find by the dozen. But as they dug deeper, clearing a shaft cut straight into the bedrock, the nature of the site changed instantly. They weren't looking at a kitchen. They were staring at a false door stele. In ancient Egyptian architecture, the false door was the spirit gate, the threshold between the land of the living and the realm of the dead. This particular door was remarkably preserved, its colors still vivid after millennia in the dark. And on the limestone lintel, there was a name that hadn't been spoken in over 4,100 years. Tetinebefou. Now, who was Tetinebefou? This is where the story gets incredible. The hieroglyphs identify him not as a royal prince or a general, but as a man of science, or at least the Old Kingdom version of it. He was a royal physician. The tomb dates back to the late Old Kingdom, specifically around the reign of Pepi II, roughly 2150 BC. This is a critical time in Egyptian history. It was an era of political twilight. Central authority was crumbling, the power of the pharaohs was waning, and the country was edging towards civil war and famine. Yet, amidst this decline, the artistry inside Tetinebefou's tomb suggests immense wealth and sophistication. The walls were alive with color, depicting rows of vessels, jars, and chests. Sadly, I have to tell you that the tomb was not found intact. Like almost every tomb in the Memphite necropolis, robbers had visited Tetinebefou centuries ago. The gold, the jewelry, and the physical medical kit that would have been buried with him were long gone, but the robbers left behind something more valuable for us: information. The walls serve as a catalog of his professional life, and by reading his titles, we can reconstruct exactly what it meant to be a doctor in the age of the pyramids. Tetinebefou held 3 distinct titles that tell us medicine in Egypt wasn't just one discipline, it was a spectrum. He was a chief dentist, a director of medicinal plants, and a conjurer of the Goddess Serqet. Let's break these down, because each title reveals a different set of tools and a different struggle for health. First, let's look at the title Weragiba, or Chief Dentist. This is an exceptionally rare title in the archaeological record. We have to understand that being a dentist in ancient Egypt was a brutal trade. The primary enemy wasn't sugar, as it is today. It was sand. The desert environment meant that sand got into everything, including the grain used to make bread. Egyptians spent their lives chewing on bread that was essentially sandpaper. This ground their teeth down flat, exposing the nerves and causing agonizing cysts and abscesses. While the physical tools were stolen, we can reconstruct Tetinebefou's dental kit based on similar finds in wall paintings. As a chief dentist, he would have wielded heavy bronze forceps. These weren't for delicate work. They were plier-like instruments, designed for the forceful extraction of molars that had become loose from gum disease. He also would have used bone drills. These were bow drills, very similar to the tools used by carpenters or bead makers. Imagine a wooden bowstring wrapped around a spindle, spun back and forth to drive a drill bit. Tetinebefou would have adapted this tool to drill into the jawbone to drain the pressure from an abscess building up under a tooth. It sounds horrific, but it would have provided instant relief from excruciating pressure. But it wasn't all extraction. We have evidence from the Old Kingdom of restorative dentistry. Archaeologists have found teeth bound together with fine gold wire, creating a bridge where a loose tooth was wired to a healthy neighbor to keep it stable. Tetinebefou likely had spools of this gold wire in his kit. And crucially, he had pain management. The wall paintings in his tomb depict rows of small, sealed alabaster jars. For a dentist, these held the difference between torture and treatment. Analysis of similar vessels has shown traces of willow bark, which contains salicin, a chemical precursor to modern aspirin, and opium. He would have used these to numb the gums and the patient before going to work. Moving on to his second title, Tetinebefou was the director of medicinal plants. This is fascinating because it implies an administrative role. He wasn't just a village healer picking herbs. He was overseeing a supply chain. He managed the logistical network that kept the pharaoh healthy. The instruments for this role were what we might call the vessels of the pharmacopoeia. The paintings on his walls show specific storage jars, short and squat, distinct from the tall wine amphorae. These were designed for viscous oils and dried herbs. If we could open these phantom jars today, we know what we would find based on medical papyri. We would find myrrh and frankincense, imported all the way from the land of Punt, near modern-day Somalia. These weren't just incense for the gods. They are powerful antiseptics used to pack open wounds to prevent gangrene. We would find honey. Honey was the base of almost every Egyptian wound dressing. It is naturally antibacterial and hygroscopic, meaning it draws moisture out of infected wounds, starving the bacteria. We would also find acacia gum, used as a binder for bandages, and malachite green. You might know malachite as a green gemstone, but the Egyptians crushed it into a paste to create eye makeup. This wasn't just for fashion. Malachite is copper carbonate, which inhibits bacterial growth. In a dusty environment prone to eye infections, Tetinebefou was essentially prescribing antibiotic eyeshadow. His third title takes us into the realm of the supernatural, Conjurer of the Goddess Serqet. To us, a doctor is a scientist. To an ancient Egyptian, a doctor without magic was negligent. Serqet was the scorpion goddess, the mistress of venom. A conjurer of Serqet was effectively a toxicologist, a specialist in treating snakebites and scorpion stings. In the deserts of Saqqara, a scorpion sting could kill a child or an elderly noble in hours. Tetinebefou's toolkit here would have looked entirely different. He would have carried a magician's wand. These were curved ivory wands, often carved from hippopotamus tusk, used to scratch circles of protection in the sand around a patient's bed. He would have used the Sipi of Horus. These were small stone stelae, depicting the child god Horus standing on crocodiles and grasping snakes. The physician would pour water over these stones, allowing the water to absorb the magical inscriptions, and then give the water to the patient to drink. It was a form of ritualized medicine. Interestingly, for certain procedures involving venom, he might have used a knife of reed. While he had bronze scalpels, ritual incisions to cut out venom were often performed with a fresh, sharp reed or flint blade. This was likely to avoid polluting the wound with metal, which was mythologically associated with the gods Seth and Chaos. Finally, we have to address the question of surgery. Did Tetinebefou perform invasive operations? While his specific tools are missing, we can look to the nearby tomb of a man named Qar, another physician from the 6th dynasty, who was a contemporary of Tetinebefou. Qar's tomb was found with a set of copper model tools that give us a glimpse into the surgical capabilities of the time. We can assume Tetinebefou possessed a similar arsenal. This would have included small bronze scalpels with wooden handles for lancing boils. It would have included metal probes, long thin rods used to explore the depth of wounds or apply medication deep inside a cavity, and perhaps most importantly, the cautery iron. This was a metal rod heated in a fire, used to sear blood vessels to stop hemorrhaging. In an era before sutures were fully understood, the cautery iron was a lifesaver. However, the fact that Tetinebefou's tomb paintings focus so heavily on containers and jars, rather than knives, tells us something about his status. By the time he reached the rank of chief palace physician, he may have left the bloody, manual labor of cutting to his subordinates. He focused instead on the high-level administration of cures, the plants, and the theological protection of the king, the magic. This discovery is so important because Tetinebefou represents the holistic healer. He didn't see a toothache as just a dental problem. It was a physical ailment requiring a drill, a chemical imbalance requiring herbal pain relief, and a spiritual breach requiring the protection of the gods. The tomb of Tetinebefou is a time capsule from the edge of a collapse. It shows us that even as the political world of the Old Kingdom was falling apart, the scientific and medical community was incredibly sophisticated. They were fighting a desperate battle against infection, pain, and death, using every tool at their disposal: metal, plant, and prayer. Thanks for listening to Fun Facts Online.